Let's uncover the secrets behind a career with purpose.
Join us as we speak to people that turn their biggest passions into their life's work.
I love it.
And inspire you to become the superhero of your own story.
Welcome to the Purpose Revolution podcast. Our special guest today is Adriana. Adriana, thank you so much for being here. I'd love to start this conversation with you by asking you, how would others introduce you? Someone close.
That's a hard question, Martin. Because I know how to introduce myself. It's harder when thinking how others would do it. I think that they would relate more to my personal side than my professional side. And they would say that I'm a very loving person, very dedicated to the ones I love and support. Ambitious, dedicated, super passionate about things, but also with a clear mission. I found my mission in this life and on this earth, and I'm super focused on it.
Yeah, so this idea of having a clear mission and doing good in the world is clearly something that reverberates and that we can see, I think, from the outside, right? In all aspects of your life and in your work. I'd be really curious to start from the beginning. So you were born in a small town in Transylvania in Romania. Can you kind of rewind the clock and tell us, how was it like to grow up there at a time that was very different from today?
Fun fact about Transylvania, they say we are somehow related with Dracula, so just stay on my good side. It hasn't been easy growing up in post-communist Romania. It's not easy to carry that weight on your shoulders. It's a very small town in the middle of the country, in the middle of Transylvania. It's called Sfântu Gheorghe, St. George. And it gave me, because it's a small town, we're only 60,000 people there, it gave me the sense of community. And also there's another community there. It's not just Romanians, it's also Hungarians, because we are many of us there. So it gave me this idea of building a community, being inclusive, doing things with people that are not quite similar with you in their language and culture. And it helped me shape who I am today. But then again, it was limited in opportunities and the options that I had, to study, to learn, to see further than just the geographical area I was in. But also I take that as a challenge because I had that and I saw that I want to get out of this, and not just for myself, but for others that are in the same situation. And, for me, it was a geographical limitation, but for others, it can take other shapes and forms. So I think it gave me courage, and it gave me a sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that sense of purpose was anchored to you or in you from also a family standpoint? Like, tell us a little bit about kind of your, like the family structure that you grew up in. Like, are people in there very ambitious? Like, was there a lot of travel and a lot of movement, right? Is it very multicultural, kind of similar to how you ended up? Or was it very, clear and to the point and kind of following the path? Just like a lot of typical family structures in post-Soviet countries.
My story is not linear at all. Listen, I didn't do impact. I was working I was a lawyer in the stock exchange market and then in television. So this impact thing came very late in my life when I understood who I am and why I'm here. And this is very connected to my family. I am privileged and so grateful to have both my mother and father. I grew up, I missed, like, we had everything. Me and my sister were privileged to have both our parents together and not miss anything, unlike other families and other children that were growing up without parents or in very poor, setups and situations. But I have this deep connection to my mission because although I was privileged, my mother grew up without her parents. My mother was abandoned by both of her parents. She grew up in this extreme poverty. She grew up in the foster care system. And growing up, it takes a toll on you emotionally and psychologically because there's a child that wasn't raised who tries to raise children. And the way she raised us was always through giving. It was like, you are so lucky to be here and have everything, that you need to give everything that you have and that you are. So me and my sister and as a child, it's hard to understand why your mother takes your chocolate and give it to like children on the street. But then it becomes part of you. I was like, oh, I buy 3 chocolates when I go to the store, not just for myself, and her story influenced my story and my life journey. But also my father, who's an entrepreneur, and they they had a very hard life during Ceausescu and during the regime. There was scarcity. They lacked food. They lacked a lot of things. So their way of being was, we need now to be part of the change. So in their different ways, they were part of the change, and that's how they raised us. So from my mother, I learned empathy and the giving, the culture of giving. And from my father, I learned, he's an entrepreneur. We have a water business, a good, steady Romanian water business. And from him, I learned resilience and ambition. And even now, after so many years, he has this business. And of course, me and my sister were entrepreneurial. And we're like, let's do this, let's do that. And he's, no, the Romanians need the water and the brand as they were used to. It's, let's keep it consistent, let's keep it steady for his clients. So in a nutshell, I'm very privileged to have grown up in a family that teached us how to be who we are today.
This is so interesting. Do you want to ask a
Go, go, go,
follow-up
go, go.
question? First of all, also fun fact, I grew up also in a very small town in Ukraine, 80,000 people, so very similar. And our town is known for being a town of witches that protects the town. So,
Wow.
you know
So
what I
Definitely
mean?
not
you should
going
be
to
a
either
prey,
of those
Martin.
towns. Yeah.
There is a connection there.
Yeah.
Honestly, like super inspirational, and yeah, it's just incredible how you can relate to your mother, yeah, and then like you get inspired by this and you take it forward into your life. I'm wondering, like, you still grew up in a small town, right? And you say like there was this community and tight community. What was the moment, or what was like this push that inspired you to look more larger, like in your country, but then also outside of your country, getting out of your community and going further and looking further? Like, what was that moment? What was the push, if there was any?
You said something. You said there was a tight community. That's the problem. It wasn't a tight community. It was Romanians against Hungarians and Hungarians against Romanians. And that's something they grew up with. But us as youngsters, we were friends. For us, it wasn't a matter of you're different because you come from another whatever country or culture. It was, we're friends, we share the same values, we should be together. So growing up, it felt like injustice. Why our parents don't get along? Why it's this tension in the city where we're friends and we do things together? So that made me realize that sometimes it's you who has to do something in order for those things to get together. So not from a tight community, but from a broken community, made me want to strengthen relationships. I always I always wanted to leave my hometown. I always wanted to flee, because it was too small for my dreams. It was too small for me. And as I said, I'm very privileged and grateful. But growing up with a mother that came from a broken system and a father that was also had his own things to carry growing up, it's not easy. So I wanted to flee and build a life on my own. And getting there, I was like, okay, this is my journey. Although my journey was imposed by my parents, this is how Romanians do, Eastern Europeans. I wanted to be a singer and I wanted to be an actress. And as supportive my parents were, my father told me, if you want to be an actress, you'll do it on your own money. If you want me to support you, you're going to go be a lawyer, a doctor, or an entrepreneur. So fighting with injustice, I said, okay, I'm going to be a lawyer and I'm going to change the world. I got to law school, and then the only jobs that were making sense then were working with very wealthy people. So that's how I ended up being a lawyer and working with very wealthy people on the stock exchange market. And I was so frustrated. All this time, I was doing volunteering for children with disabilities, a lot of old elderly people. So I was going in those environments, seeing them, and then I was working with these men, powerful men, full of they were my clients a long time ago, so I hope it's okay saying this. And I was so struck by the injustice. And then I said, well, I should take money from these people and give it to these children. So I started fundraising within my law firm, and my boss, then I left her. She was like, oh, yeah, let's raise money and let's do this and let's do this. So we started doing this first on Christmas and Easter, and then on a more regular basis. And I understood that maybe lawyering isn't the way I'm going to change the world. In Romania, we didn't know about NGOs. Like it's
not a common thing.
It's not a common thing, and it's not a job. You can do volunteering, but it's not a job. So then for me, I didn't know a lot of things about this space. And I said, I can speak for others. I've learned how to speak. I'm brave enough to do it. I'm going to do that. So I started a job in television because I wanted to change the world. From there, surprise, after 2 years, things don't go as we imagine them. And I just quit. I was super sad. Spent 2 months not knowing what I'm going to do with my life. And then I see this job advertisement for the Social Incubator. And it was like 5 friends who volunteer for children in foster care need somebody to help them setting up an NGO. So I applied. I didn't know anything. I applied, and fast forward 11 years later, here I am at your podcast.
Love it.
So it's like, it wasn't something that to answer your question, it was a long introduction. It wasn't something that I thought of to scale, to be bigger, to go out. It was my run from my own personal journey, and the right places, the right people, and the right contexts brought me to a situation and a setup that made me see, we can do more. We can do more.
Right.
And was it like this also, thinking back at maybe your school and your peers, and you mentioned this, I would say it's very Eastern European, Central European thing that your parents want to set you for success because their life was so unstable. So they want to make sure that your life is stable. And they encourage you to choose something like law, medical school, some like degree that is going to bring you success and so on. Was it like this for the rest of your peers, or were there people also who wanted to build business or had some bigger dreams and risked it? How was it for them?
Yeah, you said it quite right. That's how is their way, of our parents' way of setting up us for success, because they had to struggle a lot. I was lucky. Most of my colleagues and peers are not. They work in finance, they work in law. So, when you go on a road that was set up for you, it's very hard to go in other directions because it takes a lot of courage. And once you have a family, maybe, or you contacts, it's harder to change. But nowadays, with all that's happening and the idea of social impact, that not just social impact, the idea of freedom, the idea that you are the designer of your life. A lot of them made switches, so they're entrepreneurs. Some of them are in the creative arts. I have a friend, she's 35 like I am, and she started another college, another university, just because she said, why not? I have one life to live. So things changed. Things changed.
I think a lot of people who might be watching this are like, they might see you and they might like check out your Instagram or your LinkedIn or whatever, and they might like see this very self-actualized looking person, right? And like obviously you sit here and you have all these like this big resume and you've done so much. But you know, it took a while to get there, right? And there were a lot of bumps in the road, and you obviously just mentioned a few. I would be really curious to know what, if you can recall like that process, like when you were having those questions of, I don't know if law is for me, or like, I don't know if TV is for me, right? Like those, like, I don't want to call them watershed moments. I feel like that might be a little bit too much, but those moments, those like inflection points, right? Where there's like some sort of fabric is breaking down and there's like space for a new thing to develop. Like what were some of the things that you, looking back on it now, didn't expect about your sort of own personal, I don't know, experience with that moment, or your sort of personal yeah, like how you lived those moments?
The answer that I'm going to give now is after years of therapy. So now I understand better the emotional toll it had on me, not knowing what to do next, having a background in education and you know, working, and then looking at my future and being like, everything that I've done until now, I don't want to do it anymore. And I don't have the tools and resources. And I don't want to look just at my television or law period. I also did this a lot of the times while I was in the best place. I'm not motivated, not even today, every day. I have moments when I wake up and I'm asking myself, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Like to me and to, so it's a constant question for those who are questioning their life choices or their life. From my own experience, I would say first, be kind to yourself. I wasn't kind to myself then. I suffered so much and I was sure it's my fault. I wasn't kind to myself. I didn't ask for help. And I think it's so important to be able, it doesn't have to be professional help, although it's very good and valuable if you're there. But friends or family, and tell them you have a problem, you don't know what to do, and they could, as you asked me at the beginning, how would you describe, how would people close to you would describe you? Those people might have some ideas seeing you from, you know, a hobby or something that you did for other people, and tell you, try this or try that. Ask for help. Be kind to yourself, and then understand that we are the ones responsible for our lives, nobody else. And once you say that to yourself so many times, you start believing, I am responsible for my future. I am responsible for myself. The choices I've done before don't have to define who I am today or who I'll be tomorrow. And that's a power that, you know, once you have it, will guide your way. And also serendipity, luck. I know it's in professional settings, we don't talk about that, but when you're on your right way, things happen. And it's from my own experience and other experiences. Things happen. Just be aligned with your self and your mission.
I actually heard that a lot from a few people recently about luck question, and it's true that we don't discuss it that much because it sounds a little bit maybe superficial and superstitious as well. But yeah, once you're on the right path, right, like you have green lights, sort of like the book from Matthew McConaughey.
Can I share a crazy story?
Yeah, go
A
for
fast,
it.
crazy
Yes,
story
please.
about
Yes.
luck. So I was in the US 3 years ago for a scholarship. I love the country and I wanted to stay, but then I had only a visa that is restrictive with the exchange program. And I knew I want to be here, but none of the things that happened made me, gave me the options to stay. The visa, the money, the organization. And after I ended the program, I did like a road trip 1 month from New York to LA. And then from LA, we went to El Salvador, where one of our colleagues and friends was living. But the decision I had the plane from LA to Romania, the decision to go to El Salvador was two days before, and my visa was expiring on June 30th. So I look online. I didn't know that you need a visa to go back to the US and take the plane to go to Romania. And I didn't have a visa. So I look online and I make an appointment at the US Embassy in El Salvador. I landed at 4 for a C1 visa. It's a one-day transit visa. I land at 4 p.m. At 7 p.m., I was at the embassy. 5 hours in the line. There were a lot of people. It's very hard to get a visa in El Salvador. And I was like, my story is so crazy. Nobody will give me the visa to go back to LA and then home. It was just the plane ticket, but still, I really wanted to get the visa. So I go to this guy, he's a young guy, and I start telling him my story. Hey, listen, I was to Columbia University. I have a friend. I came to visit El Salvador. I just don't want to lose the money for the plane. It was $2,000. Please. So I start rambling, and I see him looking at me, in slow motion, just denying my visa. And then,
oh my God.
And then a lady gets in El Salvador, right? It was July 1st. A lady comes to the booth. She looks at me. She takes my passport. She lets me. I was like, oh, what's happening? Am I in trouble? She lets me talk. She stops the microphone, talks to the guy. And then she asks me, Adriana, can you tell me your story? Again, I'm from Romania. I didn't say the program name. I just said New York, Columbia University. Please, I just want the visa. I promise I'm not gonna, I love US. I was like, I was crazy. And she smiles, she listens to me. And then she looks at me and says, Adriana, do you remember me?
No.
And I look at her and I say, no, I'm sorry. And she says, I am the one who gave you the J1 visa in Romania.
No way.
I remember your energy. I remember then when I gave you the visa, I was like, this girl is going to go there and do things. What happened is that I had my B1, B2 for 10 years in El Salvador. Like every time I go to the US Customs, they're like,
what is this?
Why do you have your... Anyway. And 2 weeks after I receive an email, because it was July, I receive an email that my organization is finalist to this huge competition in New York and is the first Romanian organization to be finalist. And if I wouldn't have that visa, I wouldn't be able to go because I went to the competition, I met some people there, and that's how I ended up staying in New York until this day. Because all of these things. So when I say that, story, I say it to myself as well, because it's not easy. But sometimes it's like I am where I have to be, and things
happen for a reason.
Yeah. And at one point, things will get better. Now it's not good, but things will get better.
That's insane. I had goosebumps like the whole time you were telling this story.
The slow motion stamp.
Oh my
I was like,
God.
oh my God.
It was crazy.
That's incredible.
You're already going home sort of in your head, right, to Romania.
I was so talking about mental well-being. I was so sad. What am I doing? I don't want to go back to Romania. My mission there is over. And then this happened. I'm like, oh, okay.
Magic.
Oh my God.
And now the world continues.
Yeah.
And then it's not for a year or two. It's like for freaking 10 years. Right?
10 years. B1 Beach. Yeah.
Insane.
Legend.
Wow.
I went to the booth and I was kissing the booth. Like, she was like, please, you're going to get me in trouble. I love you.
That's incredible. Well, talk about some community feeling.
People told me how she sees thousands of people.
How she remembers you.
And I didn't say Obama.
Exactly.
I just said, but she was like in Bucharest. I remember that conversation with her because I was like, I'm going to say, and this, I never thought it's going to happen. I'm the first Romanian. And I think she was like, oh, this girl.
Yeah. This rambling again. I heard it somewhere.
That was the same.
Wow.
There's one thing I'm taking away from this is like when you just like really hone in on being as much of yourself as possible, like you just become so much more memorable, and it's just like people actually can connect with you on a much deeper level, even if you just meet them in like a consulate or like an embassy. Like this is incredible. Okay, you dropped a lot of stuff in there, which was around, you mentioned at the beginning Social Incubator. Now you just talked to us about, getting this like big prize, or at least like winning this competition, right, or having access to that. So there's a lot that's kind of moving us towards business. Before we get there, though, at the beginning you started by saying someone who has a very clear mission, who knows exactly what she's doing. So what is your mission?
My mission is to serve others. That's for sure. And to serve the ones that are not loud enough or strong enough or brave enough. I saw injustice. I saw suffering very deeply, very close, and then through my work in different ways and forms. And I know I can change that. Not by empowering others. I don't think that we can empower others, but I think we can create spaces, places, and opportunities for others to rise, for others to be the best version of themselves. And that's what I want to do. I want to create a place for each individual to be the best version of themselves. That's my mission.
And that mission has led you to, in part, joining as CEO for Social Incubator and leading quite an expansive effort to bring on more partners for funding, to build the program and impact, significantly more people, and also expand the team as well, right? Like bring in more people, give also employment opportunities to more people as well. But it's also led you to now being a social entrepreneur, right? In founding your own company, which would be great that you talk about Good Deed, and then all sorts of other sort of projects, endeavors, like consulting and business development, and then serving on boards of NGOs, right? So there's obviously a lot there. Specifically with Social Incubator, because this is kind of, from the outside, it seems like this was a very long and big part of your journey, right? And also where maybe you got some big stamps of approval in terms of, going through the dark forest and actually gaining a lot of, skills and proving yourself. Did you feel like you were up to the task when you took that first job as leader of the organization?
Before answering that question, I want to say something because I watched a lot of podcasts when I was learning and when I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, trying and starting to build something. It sounds impressive what you said, consulting, social incubator.
Lots of big words.
Big words. What I want to say is that it's a journey and it's hard. And I had many people looking at my resume and comparing themselves to me. And that can be very limiting and makes you not want to start. What I want to say, don't compare your chapter 1 to my chapter 10. Don't do that. I was in chapter 1 as well. And I was looking at these podcasts and these people and learned what they went through. I felt like an imposter every step of the way. I didn't have the background. I didn't know what's a social entrepreneurship, what's an NGO. I didn't know how to lead people. This imposter syndrome is very real and very strong. And every step of the way, I was asking myself, am I the best person to be here? As the organization was growing and we were helping more and more youth, I was like, am I up for the job? So it's been a constant, courage is actually moving with doubt. And I think that's what I was doing. I was moving, always doubting myself, but in a very courageous way. I'm here. My desire is to support, serve, and help other people. So everything else I'm going to learn on the way. But it felt hard. to not be in a place and always constantly looking. I need programs to learn from. I need to go to school. I need to listen to others. Humbleness is a very, very strong value of mine, and it's very important in our space, I think. But sometimes I confused humbleness with shrinking because I didn't know a lot of things in the space. I, social entrepreneurship isn't about being a hero. It's about consistency. And it's about knowing that hope is something you build, not something you wait for. And that got me through all those moments. Even now, I'm not I'm not there yet.
Would you say, in general, are you easily overwhelmed?
After 5, 7 years of therapy, not anymore. I learned how to deal with failure. Our spaces, or my journey, was more downs than ups. So I learned, I don't want to romanticize failure because that's wrong, but I learned how to navigate it. And I give my time, I give myself time, and I don't get overwhelmed. I grieve, and then right immediately I'm on a solution mode. This is a lesson. What I take from this lesson, I go forward.
And you said you learned it, right?
Yeah.
You learned it over therapy or also your experience, right?
Yes.
And how was that process? Like, what was the point A and like, what is the point B?
I still have a long way to point
It's
B.
more
I'm still
point
in the
C.
Yeah,
it's
point
a
like
Z. I think it's
exactly.
um therapy was an important process. And talking about small towns and talking about Romania, when you say you need therapy or you go
Yeah.
to therapy, you're like, "Oh,
Very
you're
course.
crazy."
stigmatized. Yeah.
Of course.
It's very stigmatized, and we do this for our youth. We do this for our team. I do this for myself. Seeking for professional help is very important in our space. It doesn't have to be only about vulnerable people or working with vulnerable people. We need that because it's very heavy what we do. So
100%.
I learned in therapy how to be, not how to navigate with stress or overwhelming, but how to be kinder to myself. And then I read a lot of books, and I watched and listened to a lot of podcasts and saw how other people do it as well. And some things worked for me, some things didn't. For example, I cannot do yoga meditation. I cannot. I fell asleep. But then for me, going in a place that I feel that it's my own, like music, helped me wind down and clear my mind and just deal with everything in my own way. Nature as well. So it's look at all the options that you have and we have, test them, adapt, and keep the ones that are good for you.
So I guess the message is building a business or working, no matter what you do, is of course important, productivity and efficiency and so on. But none of this is possible unless you take care of yourself, unless you're kind to yourself, and unless you take breaks to regain the energy and motivation to move forward. What do you do to regain your energy?
So I was talking about music. I sing a lot, not only in the shower or in the house. I write music. I do that. That's my own very selfish thing. It's my own. I a lot of sports. I love cycling, not outdoors. In New York,
Indoors,
indoors. It like
like
in
spinning.
spinning, and
Mm.
they have these. So if you were ever in the U.S., try Soul Cycle. If you like cycling, they have this space in which you don't only cycle. They also, connect your mind with your body. It's super cool. So I do that. Spend time with my family and friends. They're very important to me, and walk parks, nature. I mean, common things. There's nothing. Oh, yes, there's something special, and I want to share because it's very important. It changed. It's changed a lot in my overwhelming. My coach, my business coach, because in the moments I was overwhelmed, she was, let's see how we prioritize, let's see how we download everything that you have. And at one point, there were a lot of things that I've done well, but a lot of failures, and I could see only the failures. And she was trying to tell me, but Adriana, you did this, you did that. You always set the bar very up and high, and that's why you feel like you've done nothing. So she gave me an exercise, and I'm doing it now for 3 years. Every day, every night, when you go to sleep, have a paper, a journal of some sort, and write 3 things that you're grateful for on that day. It might sound a bit stupid. I promise you it works, because it resets your mind in looking at things that you are grateful for, although your day is shitty. And sometimes my grateful my grateful reasons are, oh, the sky was blue, because everything else was horrible that day. But it helps you see, okay, but the sky was blue. You were alive to see that sky. You had the energy to go do cycling or whatever. So that's a good tip that I received, and why not? Maybe helps.
It's a good one.
Super cool.
I support it because I do the exact same thing every night. Yeah, the gratitude journaling. And when I was living in Japan for a little bit, studying Zen Buddhism, there's a big practice in Buddhism that if anyone has, like, I don't know, even read about, for example, Dalai Lama or whatever, right? Like, he spends 4 hours doing love and kindness meditations every morning, right? And that's very extreme, and like no one is really expected to do that, even if it will make you much more enlightened probably. But just the practice of taking time to point to gratitude is sort of like biologically, it's like you're fighting this human instinct to just focus more on the negative than on the positive. And I agree with you, because in my daily life, sometimes I'll just get so caught up in everything, and then I'm just like, everything is crap. And then you just have this moment and you realize it is a muscle that you need to train, and doing the practice every day is really helpful. You get like out of that, and you have these moments where you're like, oh wait, actually, like my body is working right now, or I have, water, or like I have like running water, like access to that, right? Like all of these things that you kind of take for granted, that maybe you're just washing your hands and you just have this little moment of like, oh, this is really nice, right? Like it's just these little moments that make everything a little bit better, and I think also more, not just more enjoyable, but also more livable.
And they also help you set your intent when you think of something, when you pray for something, if you're religious, when you set up your intentions, when they come from a place of gratitude and not desperation and not suffering, it builds differently. These are things that you talk about, the spiritual level and energetical level. These are things that are real. When you set yourself up for something from a place of gratitude, it's a different outcome than when you're desperate or suffering. So it works on a lot of levels.
Because I guess it also comes from a place of kindness and love towards yourself in the first place, and probably helps also to develop this, because it's really hard.
It's really hard. Yeah.
And that's also where the therapy comes in.
Therapy, coaching, whatever.
Whatever form,
whatever
journaling,
mentoring,
anything.
Sometimes that works as well if you're not ready for therapy. It's so important.
Yeah.
It's so important. And we're young, and you think, oh, I don't need it at 20 years old. Believe me, you do this, it's going to transform your life.
Right. I mean, looking at the time, we're pretty much done. I would like want to keep going for this on like 15 minutes, but I think we'll stop there. I think that's also a great message to end on, that a lot of the work of finding your own sense of purpose, your own mission, creating impact in the world, making money, like all these different topics, to be able to do that in a holistic way, you need to really understand what's going on in here and also regulate that. And I just think it's very powerful that you are putting or shining a light on that. So thank you for that. And thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love the conversation. I feel like there are so many other questions that I would love to ask. Maybe there will be part 2. Who
Yeah.
knows, right?
Exactly. Let's make it
But
happen.
generally, love the conversation. I could relate and connect a lot as well, with the story of the small little town and too ambitious and not wanting to stay at this place and wanting to see the world and wanting to do more. And it's just great also when it comes from the right place, right heart, and you not only think about individual self, but also about others and noticing what's happening around you and taking it into consideration.
Mm.
And we're here. We from our small towns, not so small in your case, we ended up here, and that's the power of serving others and kindness. At one point, those dreams become true if you're consistent and
And a
kind to
little bit
yourself
of
and
courage,
others.
I would
Yeah,
say.
awesome.
And brave.
And a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
courage. Great. Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
so
Thank you
much.
for having me.